Hello, superheroes of the world. Wow, we are finally live inside the classroom here at Superhero Academy. And so much stuff is going on around the world. But I am so excited that you, ladies and gentlemen, from around the world are joining me. So we're going to take a few minutes to let some people trickle in to this webinar, into this free class. And we're going to dive right in. We're going to go through a bunch of different components on the 4-step journey that I've been promising you. But in the meantime, as you guys trickle in, and as some people kind of, get their links all straightened out and get into this room, I wanted to take a little bit of time to actually point and tell a story to Garrett over here, who is actually a product, who was in a webinar like this, who was part of the Academy just a short while ago and is now working full-time as a philanthropreneur. So I would love for him to share his story. I cannot wait to hear a little bit more about you guys. And as you guys are coming in, type in your name and where you guys are from, what that looks like, where you guys are coming from. I want to see that go on the feed, on the side, on the chat over here. And we cannot wait to answer some of your questions at the end. And also, if you're seeing this now, we have a gift for you. We have a very special gift for people just like you who are joining in and paying attention and participating in this. All right, so Garrett, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here. It's super excited to get this webinar going. Just about a year and a half ago, I had just gotten out of school. I was traveling through Costa Rica. I spent some time at Earthship Biotecture. I was working at a ski resort, and I was had avoided getting what I thought was a real job, and I was trying to do things that I had read in Vagabonding and Tim Ferriss and all these things. But I wanted to mix my love for entrepreneurship with a better cause. And while I was working at the ski resort, I saw Mark put something up on Snapchat asking about a social media manager. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity. I said, hey man, I have a background in marketing. I love entrepreneurship. I love what you've done with the Valhalla movement. I've seen some stuff about Superhero Academy. What does it take to get a part of all this? He said, sign up for the classes. I did right away, learned so much, met some awesome people in the closed Facebook group, and really kind of pushed me to the next level. I ended up going and living in Montreal for about 2 months, studying closely, and since that point, in just over a year, I've been able to kind of build up my income just online as a digital strategist, but I only work for companies who are in the sustainability or wellness industry. So I've mixed my love for entrepreneurship with actual companies who are doing amazing work in the world. And now here I am a year and a half later after joining Super Academy. I've started an eco-village, Valhalla, Vermont. It's just got up and going with my friends here in Vermont. But during the winter, I'm just going to leave and spend some time on the beach or go to Australia or Europe, because it's awesome because I can still do my work online as a digital strategist from anywhere. So never stops. Get to continue following my dream, spreading ideas and stories that I love. And it's given the opportunity to do some amazing things and meet some amazing people. So I'm going to pass it over to Mark here. And if you have any questions, please put them on the side, and I'll answer them or write them down for the end. Peace out, guys.
So Garrett's going to be there answering your questions as we roll through this, and I'm going to turn on the slides in just a second, but I want to acknowledge so many people coming from all around the world. I saw Australia, Brantford, Montreal, Quebec. I saw Santa Fe, New Mexico. I mean, it seems like you guys are literally tuning in from all over the world, and I know so many people are going to be tuning into this later and not in this live session. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for giving me your time and attention. And I really hope that I can show you the pathway that I've used to build something way bigger than me and how you can do it too. So I'm going to turn on my screen share here. Just going to get this going. This real quick. And all right. Okay. So today I want to talk to you about the rise of the philanthropreneur, the 4 steps to building a movement that allows you to live a life of impact, adventure, and profit. You see, a philanthropreneur is somebody with an entrepreneurial mindset, but who doesn't ignore the philanthropic causes that our world needs to have solved. There's so many issues going on around us. And unless we are willing to step up and into our power, if entrepreneurs aren't willing to step up and change the kind of metrics of success, then we're going to be left in a world that won't really have us as humans thriving. So I really believe that entrepreneurs have a duty to step up and actually take on the world's biggest challenges. I truly believe that the ROI metric of return on investment doesn't have to be mutually exclusive from the ROI metric of ripple of impact. I really believe that you can be that philanthropreneur. And so today I want to show you how you can go on that journey and how you can learn to build a movement. Because at the end of the day, movements are important. They have changed our world. They have changed so many social issues. And if it weren't for things like Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement, if it weren't for things like the gay and LGBT communities getting their rights through the movements that have been created both online and off, then we wouldn't be living in such a beautiful world today. So I want to teach you how you can build a movement, and I want you to kind of take note of some of the things that you're going to learn in this class. So the first is we're going to teach you about clarity and commitment and how it's so vital and important to your success. Because if you're going to build a movement, if you're going to step up as a philanthropreneur, you have to know what you're focusing on. What is that idea that you want to see come to life? And how can you pick it? How can you pick something that is bigger than yourself, that is worthy of building a movement, that is worthy of building a business or an idea around, and figure out how that culminates into something that you are manifesting in your life? The second thing I want you to learn is about story and offer and the importance of those two things. You know, entrepreneurship, most people think, is just about business. It's about money, and it's about kind of being able to build something, you know, that allows you to empower and live your life and pay your bills. But I truly believe that story is the fundamental component of business. See, unless you're able to communicate a story, and unless you're able to communicate an offer that people find valuable, then you will not really truly be building a movement, nor would you be building a business that empowers you and allows you to profit from it and pay your bills doing it. So we're going to teach you how you can build a following for a cause and how you can get paid to live your dream job. We're also going to teach you about the importance of tribe and audience. You see, movements aren't just about massive amounts of people coming together at some big event in history. They are about the slow build of a tribe, an internal group of people who are supporting you and who are joining in on this mission to take on the cause that you have brought forward and that the world is bringing forward in the zeitgeist. But also the audience, right? You know, there's a TED Talk that talks about how the first follower is actually the most important person in a movement, because a leader, although the charismatic face of a movement, the audience really makes that movement grow and flourish. And we see this in politics. We see this in civil rights movements. We see this in movements to build eco-villages, which I'll talk more about later. And we see this in so many different aspects. And it's part of this gift that I want to tell you about at the end of this class, but we'll get to that. So we're going to teach you how you can build that tribe and community and how they can support your mission. Now, we're also going to teach you about mastery and freedom, right? Once you've built this clarity in your mind, once you've figured out your story and your offer, once you've built a tribe and an audience and a following online, whether that be a massive Facebook following or an in-person event that is happening year after year, we're going to teach you how you can master this, how you can become a mentor, and how you can find mentors to enable you along this path. And so mastering your craft, becoming an influencer, becoming an expert, and being able to make a massive living, literally 6, 7, 8 figures, literally the ceiling is the limit as to what you can do this, and well beyond, because it goes to the moon in many ways too. So your mastery and freedom, and we're going to teach you all of that. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about myself in a little bit, but I will say something about my experience. You see, many of you know me from Superhero Academy because you showed up to this class, but I'm actually involved in a bunch of different or other organizations, some of which I started and I'll talk about later, but some of which I am a part of, like Collective Evolution, like Goalcast, like Higher Perspective, Futurism, High Existence, and so many more. Combined, these Facebook pages online reach millions of people, both on Facebook, both on their websites, visiting every single month. And there are millions and millions of people paying attention to some of the strategies and ideas that I'm going to put forth in this class and that can very much apply to you. So first, though, I really want you to hear a little bit of a story, because I couldn't be telling you how story is so important unless I was willing to commit to telling you a story in the first place. So let me dive in. The world has a lot of issues. There are so many things going on in the world around us, and it hit me like a ton of bricks when in 2010, I was deciding and kind of in this space where I had lost my identity. And I was deciding what I was going to do next. And I heard this quote that says, "Don't let schooling get in the way of your education." And so I decided to watch a documentary a week for 52 weeks straight. An entire year worth of documentaries. And each and every one of these documentaries was telling me something. They were exposing me to some kind of issue or problem that was happening around the world, whether it be about climate change or the disappearing of species, whether that be about fracking and peak oil, you name it, I was hearing it and learning about it. But the issue was that 95% of the time in these documentaries was actually spent talking about the problem and not the solution. I started recognizing this very familiar pattern. I started to see something that was kind of taking hold. And I started to learn about statistics like for every one article on the solution to climate change, there are 80 articles talking about the problem. So it's not news to you that the world has these issues, but it is sometimes news to me, and hopefully sometimes to you, that they're solvable and that there's actually ways to do this. Now, one day I was sitting at home while figuring out which documentary I was going to watch next, and I was staring at this screen. Google. Access to the world of information. Every single piece of anything that you've ever wanted to learn about has somehow found its way onto a database like Google. And I opened it up and I had the most tragic moment of my life at that time, which was I had access to the world of information, and yet I couldn't think of a single thing I wanted to learn. I was caught in feeling like there was nothing left for me to know about. There was no more hope that I had inside of me. And there was nothing more that I could learn. And of course, that wasn't true. But I started typing in this one sentence. If everyone lived like, and I got this autocomplete that said, if everyone lived like the average American. So I decided to click that. And to my horror, I saw this graphic. To my horror, I literally saw the graphic of if everyone lived like the average American, we would need 4.1 planets just to survive. And this, mind you, is in 2011 numbers. 4.1 planets to live like me and to live like many of you. You see, I didn't recognize it at the time, but I was spoiled. I had never really traveled the world at that moment. I had never really seen poverty or been exposed to it in a deep way. And yes, I'd seen homeless people on the street, but I never really recognized how much I and the world around me was consuming. How much that was changing so much that is happening. And it's not just here in America, because I'm not even in America. I'm Canadian. I'm from Montreal. And I thought, well, America, of course, they're massive consumers. They have so many people. They have so many people consuming on a daily basis. They're clearly the worst in the world, right? Yeah, I wish that was true. And turns out being a Canadian is also pretty shitty, because not only would it take one planet to survive as a Canadian, not only would it take 2 planets or 3 or 4, but it would actually take 5 planets to live like the average Canadian. My world was absolutely turned over. It just completely shattered in front of me that I was living this illusion that I somehow had a sustainable life, even though I knew nothing about sustainability, even though that sustainability at that time meant solar panels and tree planting and gardening, that I was the person who was part of the problem. That if everyone lived like me, we wouldn't survive. And yet, everyone around the world, to some degree, wants to live this first world quote unquote life. We all want access to this stuff. And so over the years, I ended up becoming a philanthropreneur. I ended up taking on the world's biggest challenges via sustainable entrepreneurship. And I started to learn about the world around me. I started to put into practice some of these solutions that I started to read about and listen to, even in that 5% of the documentaries that was being shared with me. I started to apply them and actually make them come to life. And I'll get to that in a second. But I also became a full-on entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur now since 2007. And I've studied and mentored with countless game changers and consulted for massive companies that I sometimes didn't fully support, or at least I don't now. And brands like Collective Evolution Futurism, all these brands that I mentioned earlier that are enormously impactful in some of the information and the dissemination of media today, which plays such an important role. Now, I also have started 6 social businesses, all still running today. I have over 10 million plus in social reach, but to be honest, this has changed because now I work with Goalcast, and just last month we had 290 million video views. And I've been able to generate in each of these businesses 6 to 7 figure revenues. Now, I tell you all of this not to impress you, but more so to actually let you know that in doing all of this, I have failed over and over and over again. In fact, I'm almost embarrassed that I'm telling you how many times I failed, because the truth is, when I first started, I absolutely knew nothing. I was just a man in a field with a dream. And this is an actual shot of me stepping onto a project that I started just a few years back in 2012 after this existential crisis that I was going through. But I was truly in this position where I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have any clarity or focus or commitment. I didn't have a story or a tribe. I hadn't mastered anything. I hadn't gone down the path that I'm teaching you today. But I did know what I believed. I did know that I wanted to be free. I knew that I wanted to proliferate freedom culture, a collective state of being that empowers and encourages all individuals to spread their unique gifts to the world. I knew that I wanted to spread this freedom, that I wanted my friends and family to be free, that I wanted to be empowered, that I wanted to see other people be able to step into the change that they wanted to create and to change themselves, to see themselves transform into this entrepreneur, into this mindset. And so I'd like to say that when I first faced Morpheus, quote unquote, and was given the blue pill, red pill treatment and option, that I immediately was like Neo and just went for the red pill. But not really. You see, I actually ended up going the traditional route. I ended up taking that blue pill and going to an Ivy League Canadian university called McGill. And year after year, day after day, I went to class and I went down the path that my parents and the world around me kept telling me was the best way. You see, I had watched my parents go from absolute poverty into a middle class life and just move up that ladder in an amazing way. And I wanted the same for myself. I wanted to be able to continue their legacy, to honor who they were, to honor the fact that they had supported me throughout my education, that they had provided a roof over my head, and they had done so much for me. I wanted to honor the fact that I believed that when I went to university, I would learn everything I needed to know about being who I wanted to be, that I would come out and find the job of my dreams and be able to live an empowered life. But what I actually learned in university is what not to do. What I actually realized is that it was real shitty. I don't just mean just a little bit. It was absolutely useless. It had not served me whatsoever. I had learned more about what I didn't want to do, studying marketing and finance and entrepreneurship and accounting, all things that were driving me mad while I was learning them in university. And I started to recognize that we needed an educational revolution, that we needed to change the schooling system and that it was failing people and misleading them, that it was leaving people in debt and taking an enormous amount of money out of families' wealth, giving them the promise that they would one day be able to be empowered and giving zero guarantee to such, giving zero real world experience when doing theories on an exam, or going up in front of a class and presenting an idea without having ever really tried it, or in any way serving actual businesses and philanthropic causes that were happening in the world around us. We were just scribbling in textbooks in the most useless form ever. And I recognized that I started to point the finger. But you see, every time you point a finger, there are three pointing back at you. I recognized that if we needed an educational revolution, that we needed to be a part of it. If we were going to make this revolution happen, we needed to build the schools that I wish, and you wish, surely, that we could have gone to. So instead of pointing my fingers, I started recognizing that change happened within me. And so that picture of that field that I was on, well, I ended up turning it into this amazing project called the Valhalla Movement, something that I created with a bunch of amazing people who surrounded me and became a tribe, became a community of people who joined me. And we started to grow. We took over a GMO corn and soya field and turned it into a 30-person off-grid community. A space where we practice permaculture, where we have set up solar panels, where we have reached millions of people online, where we have crowdfunded to build things like earthships, and where we have learned so much about everything from organic farming to market gardening to beekeeping to how to deal with your neighbors and with the community and the drama that happens within it. We started to learn what it was like to truly build something together. Something that was bigger than any one of us, something that was definitely bigger than me, and something that was inspiring those who were paying attention. You know, thousands of people started literally showing up on this eco-village site 20 minutes outside of downtown Montreal, and we started to spread. We went viral online and made the most viral Earthship article ever seen. We actually popularized it in a way that Michael Reynolds was marveling at, the inventor and founder of Earthship's biotecture. And we were able to start expanding not only into this one location of 66 acres, of which we've only now begun touching, about 10 acres or so. And we really spent 4 years working on about 3 acres of that 66. But we've now been able to expand into Valhalla, Vermont, which is where Garrett, who was at the beginning of this class and who told his story, actually went and opened. Through the mentorship that Superhero Academy was able to provide, we actually were able to expand into 2 locations, and we're now talking about other locations around the world, including places like Costa Rica and Australia, and so many more. This is an endless conversation that enormously empowered me and changed my life. And I would never have experienced it had I not gotten clear and committed, had I not gotten angry enough to go outside and make a difference, to go out into the middle of that GMO cornfield and plant a tree, and to make this movement happen no matter what. Now, don't get me wrong. I've made an enormous amount of mistakes, and so has everyone at Valhalla. And so a bunch of people came up to us each and every day and kept asking, Marcangelo, how are you doing this? How can I live this life? How can I be an entrepreneur and pay my bills and work on things like this every day? And how can I do this not only in Montreal by visiting Valhalla Montreal, but how can I also do this by learning it online? How can I do this from home? How can I make this happen in my community? And so I decided to not only build the off-grid eco-village and school in person, but to actually build it online, to actually build Superhero Academy into the online school that I wish I could have gone to. Available 24 hours a day, all around the world. Now, to date, before we're launching our first version of this website, we have been in beta for over 2 years, testing out these techniques and making sure that they worked. With over 100 founding students proven to have built movements, including Valhalla Vermont, which sprung out of Superhero Academy and Valhalla's tandem combination. We've also filmed 40 plus online classes, and we have an expanding list of teachers with more and more classes and courses being filmed each and every single day. Not all by me, but by experts, true game changers, true philanthropreneurs. And so with all of this said, I started to recognize that we needed some key values. We needed something to kind of drive this mission forward. And we needed to be able to communicate these values to those who are paying attention to us, to our tribe, and to our audience. And I recognized that we needed sustainability. Not just sustainability from the perspective of solar panels and permaculture and earthships and what I would call hippie texture, but sustainability from the idea of long-term thinking. Because that's what sustainability means to me. It truly is a measure of thinking longer term. It truly is a measure of thinking beyond yourself and thinking beyond this one moment or this one individual component of life. We also needed community. We needed to do it together. If we were going to solve massive problems, we needed massive amounts of people to participate. You know, I had this amazing conversation with an amazing entrepreneur, I would call a philanthropreneur as well, Peter Diamandis, who's the author of a book called Bold. And he talks about this concept about to be a billionaire, you must solve a billion-person problem, or at least you must strive to solve a billion-person problem. And if you're going to do that, you're going to need to take on the world's biggest challenges with a community of people who are supporting you when things go wrong, supporting you when things are going right, supporting you by playing a role in your organization or in this philanthropic cause that you are leading. And recognizing that you don't always need to be the leader, but then in some cases, you can also be a dedicated follower. That you don't need to be the entrepreneur, but that you can also play a role within the community by aiding an organization that you love. But understanding entrepreneurship and understanding the knowledge, the lingo, understanding how philanthropic causes work, understanding how nonprofits or co-ops or B Corps work. Well, that's knowledge that you need to be able to change the world and to change yourself. You see, knowledge is empowering. It helps you put it together, but it only becomes real wisdom when you can put it into action. It only becomes something that is worthwhile if you're able to actually enable it in your life. And how many people here are longing for that? If you're listening to this, you are surely longing for some action in your life, for something to have a higher purpose within you, to play this role in this community. Now, I say all of this knowing full well that you came here to learn how you can build a movement, how you can step into this. And so I want to share what I've learned over the years of doing this. The first thing I learned is that focus is a superpower. You see, so many of us want to take on all the world's challenges. When I was watching these documentaries, there was not a single documentary that I would watch that I didn't feel inspired to now help, right? Whether it be the vanishing of the bees or saving the polar bears, these are all causes that I wanted to light a blaze, in a sense, that I wanted to participate in. But having 1,000 ideas and trying to start 1,000 fires at the same time really is unwise. And I say that because I did that. I've stretched myself way too thin. I've worked countless hours from first thing in the morning, the second I woke up, the last thing I do while passing out in front of my computer, trying to keep things all together, trying to start way too many fires at once. But the fastest way to start 1,000 fires is not by trying to continuously move our magnifying glass of attention. Imagine, you were walking around in the forest, you had this magnifying glass, and it was your focus, it was your attention, it was your clarity. And you kept moving it and trying to start these 1,000 fires. Well, what you would recognize is that every time you moved the magnifying glass, you had literally thrown away all the progress that you had just had in trying to light that fire ablaze. But if you focused, if you held it in one spot and you let the sun and the right conditions and the environment and the people around you and the space around you play into this and align yourself with the universe in that way, without sounding hippy-dippy, if you focus, then you can start a single fire. And the fastest way to start 1,000 fires is to start one powerful fire that now you can carry a torch from this fire to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one. You see, if you want to start multiple movements, if you want to activate multiple streams of income, just like the average millionaire in the world has 7 streams of income that feed them, or that kind of feed their wallets in a sense. If you want to do that, you have to recognize that you have to master something first. You have to be able to provide value, and you have to be able to focus if you're going to see this happen. And this is why it's an integral part of Superhero Academy. It's also an integral part of my own life, where I embody these habits. Because if I see what's on your calendar and what you're focusing on any single given day, I can guarantee you that I can see what kind of results you're going to have. Now, the second thing I learned is that stories spark movements. Now, I know this seems obvious, and I might have mentioned it before, but it's not always obvious to everyone. See, we think that building an amazing website, or having a great social media presence, having the best graphic design or web design, having the best presence in some way, shape, or form is going to make this movement happen. But unless you're able to tell a story, unless you're able to make your charisma shine through, unless you're able to recognize that stories are told in predictable patterns, just like superhero movies are. Like my favorite superhero, Batman, right? Nobody's ever gone to the movie theater and not known how the Batman movie ends, to some degree. And yet the stories captivate us. They inspire us. They make people want to participate in the movements that you are creating. And so learning how to tell a story is about more than just learning marketing. It's about more than just learning the quick tips that you can Google or YouTube. It's about practice. It's about understanding that you need to tell this story each and every single day. Just like I'm telling you this story right now. Because that's how movements are born. Now, movements are nothing without a source to feed them, without the engine behind them. In the exact same way that rocket ships require fuel to be able to blast off. You see, if you're going to aim for the moon, if you're going to aim for Mars, like Elon Musk is and SpaceX, you need fuel. You need an economic engine that fuels this mission forward. we would have never landed on the moon. We would have never seen all of these amazing advancements in the world of technology and of society around us had we not built economic incentives for all of those involved in this movement. Now, I know what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I've been doing it since 2007. And I also know what it takes to avoid so many of the pitfalls that so many people fall into, like their relationships with money, like the different things that keep us from holding back or that always give our hand out in a giving format without ever taking. Because sometimes we have insecurities about asking for something that we deserve and not recognizing or owning up to the value that we can provide to the world. So rocket ships require fuel and movements require economic engines. They require entrepreneurs for them to sustain. Now, this one might seem obvious, but movements, well, they move. They shift, they change, they pivot. And just like an entrepreneur would when faced with a problem, whether you be Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Oprah Winfrey, you start pivoting as the movement takes different shapes, as attention flows in different areas. You know, if you were still using the same techniques to advertise your movement, to build your organization as people were in the 1950s, you'd be sending out flyers in the mail, you'd be doing TV ads, you'd be doing radio ads, you'd be doing a whole bunch of stuff that is way less effective today. And yet today, social media, Instagram, Facebook, ads online are way more effective and way more targeted at being able to find the niche of people who you are trying to appeal to. So being able to pivot in your strategy, being able to move, to change as the roadblocks get put in front of you, just like Martin Luther King or all of these amazing movement leaders like Gandhi have done before you. Then learning the lessons that these people have gone through, reading the books that I have read and that many others have beautifully written can explain how you can build this movement too. Now, one thing I want to point out is that just because you can learn this stuff, just because I'm telling you this information, and you can write it down while you take notes and you ask questions at the end of this, just having that knowledge doesn't mean that you are turning it into wisdom. Because only when knowledge meets action does it truly become wisdom. Now, let me prove this to you. If I just gave you the knowledge of what it took to be an entrepreneur right here, right now, if I just handed it to you and opened the doors to Superhero Academy or to even Harvard or whatever you value in terms of a source of information, if I gave you the knowledge, I truly believe that unless you truly valued it, unless you paid for it, unless you stepped into it, unless you truly committed to it, you wouldn't actually learn a thing, and I would only be doing a detriment to you. Now, let me prove that. How many people know what it takes to get a six-pack? I'm not talking about a six-pack of beer. I'm talking about six-pack abs, right? Raise your hand in your mind if you're the person who wants six-pack abs. Now, apparently about only 2% of the world has a six-pack, but I believe that 100% of the world knows what it takes to have a six-pack. You might not have the best techniques. You might not have had a personal trainer or had the money to be able to hire a personal trainer, but you definitely know that if you did more sit-ups and you ate more kale and you did it every single day, you would have a six-pack. You see, the knowledge is there. You know that if you just got down on the ground and gave me 20, you could get there on a daily basis. And yet so many of us struggle. Who would you bet on? Two people walk into the gym on January 1st. One person signs up for $50, gets a gym pass, has access to all the equipment in the gym, all the courses that go on there, and can do as they please. The second person who walks in, pays 10 times the price, $500, gets access to the same equipment, the same courses, has the same amount of knowledge as the first person, but hires somebody to keep them accountable, hires a personal trainer, a mentor. Now, assuming that they are doing the same exercises, who do you think is still going to the gym on March 31st? Who's even there on February 1st? Who's there on December 31st? Who would you bet on? You see, even though one person is paying 10 times the value that the other person is, I truly believe that that person is way more likely to succeed because they have found accountability. Because so many of us say that we want to stick to something, but we have a hard time maintaining that focus. And I learned that lesson the hard way. For years, I resisted mentors. I resisted being able to hire a coach. I resisted everything around me. I resisted taking online courses even because I thought I knew it all. I thought I knew better. I thought I could figure it all out on Google. And you're right, you can. If you YouTube and Google a bunch of stuff that I can teach in Superhero Academy, you could definitely figure it out. But you'll spend a better part of a decade doing it. You're going to spend an enormous amount of time figuring it out, piecing it together, figuring out who's lying and who's telling the truth. And I've been able to go through that process, and I've done it by making 1,000,001 mistakes. I've done it also, however, by taking some of the best online classes and hiring some of the best coaches ever. I spend thousands of dollars a month to this day on my own accountability. Not because people who are keeping me accountable know more than me about the topics that I'm passionate about, but because they help allow me to stay truly committed. They help me stay truly in this position where I am focused, where I am able to really make something powerful happen. So I want to take a quick second to address you and to speak right to your face. I want to be able to kind of speak directly to you and share with you what that looks like. And I want to ask for your permission. Whether or not you are truly committed to being this philanthropreneur, whether or not you're truly committed to stepping up into this. And I want to offer you something that only you who is watching this is going to get. I want to teach you how we've been able to combine this into Superhero Academy, how I've taken all this wisdom that I've learned from so many people and been able to make this come to life in this online academy and in these courses. And how I want you to embark on this journey with us. So please, if this is not for you, if this is not something you're interested in, by all means, click away. But if you want to learn how the Academy works, and I ask for your permission to tell you a little bit more about it. I'm going to turn back on the slides and we'll dive right in. We'll scroll through this. It brings me right back to the beginning. All right. So in Superhero Academy, we've carefully crafted a 4-stage journey on your path to mastery. 4 stages from the apprentice, hero, superhero, and mastery levels that enable you to do exactly what I just told you is important on your path. First, in the apprentice level, we help you find clarity and commitment towards living a life of following your highest excitement and establishing the patterns needed for success as someone who is self-employed. Now, so many of you are listening to this and you're saying, I don't even know what I want to do. I don't even know what idea I have. I have these things. I know I want to be an entrepreneur. I know I want to be self-employed. I know I want to support entrepreneurs, perhaps, maybe not just be one yourself, but you don't know where to start. And so this is the level for you. This is the level that teaches you that. And it really operates from the perspective of like white belt to black belt in our academy. And the first 4 stages are online. They're designed to help you figure out and get clear and focused, to keep you accountable, to build something around you, and to kind of get those ideas on paper. Because if you write them down, you are 42% more likely to achieve them than if you don't. So we've designed a school that does that for you. Now, the second stage is the hero stage, which is all about story and offer. How you can craft your new story when somebody asks you, what do you do? And be empowered to create an offer that allows you the financial freedom to live out your dreams and have an impact, right? Answering the question, what do you do when you're at a networking event or when somebody meets you for the first time or when you haven't seen an old friend in a while? Well, that's an open door, an opportunity to potentially earn a living with whatever your answer is. So being able to learn the actual skills that it takes to do that. What are the 8 stages of an amazing and engaging story? And if you're still listening to this right now, chances are this kind of story captivated you. What are the stages of branding? How does colors play a role? How can you learn to build a website that communicates what you are feeling inside and what your mission is all about? How can you communicate that not only online, but in person on a stage in front of a group of people? These are all classes that are available to you in the academy in this hero level. There's so many different things that can teach you about whether or not you are on the right path or what are the different considerations that you might need to make this idea exist. The third stage is to help you find your tribe for support and accountability, as well as build a team to help you bring your gifts to the world and amplify your message to reach the masses. Now, I don't just say this because I think this works. I say this because I know it works. I and the people around me have combined to reach millions of people every single day. I know what it takes to make something like this go viral. I know what it takes to build something out of nothing. And not only do I know what it takes to do it from the perspective of having a big studio and lights and cameras and whatever it is, but I know what it takes to do it on a budget. I know what it takes to do it with the hacks of Facebook and Instagram, because there are some. And I've had years of experience running a marketing agency doing this for massive organizations as I have for movements. I've done this with zero budget, and I've done this with thousands upon thousands of dollars of budget for other people as well. So I can help you do it too. And the fourth stage is to help you build your career and lifestyle, to be seen as an expert in your field and be invited to rub shoulders with the masters who were once your teachers and inspiration not long ago. You see, I used to look up to the Tim Ferrisses of the world, the Gary V's of the world. I used to want to engage with them. I used to want to be on their level. And yet, last week I was speaking to Gary V, yet I've been able to interview some of my heroes like Simon Sinek and Peter Diamandis. I've been able to gain access to people that I would have dreamed of having access to. I thought it was impossible. I thought that reaching this level was just something that people did on TV, that I would never necessarily be that expert. And I became it because I went through this journey and I found mentors. I learned from masters and I invested in masters. And so Superhero Academy has a lot to offer. We have 40 how-to online classes available 24/7. So whether you're in Australia or in Canada, you can watch this 10 times over. And not only can you watch it, but we're tracking that you watch it. We're able to support you with a online Facebook group and Q&As, regular Q&As, where you can ask me and any one of the teachers or tribes members any questions. But at the exact same time, we have technology that tracks whether or not you are watching classes, so that if you haven't showed up in the classroom, if you haven't been paying attention, if you haven't been keeping your focus, we can nudge you. We could poke you. We can say, hey, where you been? You said you wanted to do this. What's going on? And we can expose you to mentorship from philanthropreneurs all around the world who have dedicated their lives to building an impact and building movements, and who combined with you, have and see their impact continue to rise and help your impact continue to rise. You see, we don't live in a scarce world. We actually have an abundance. We can all create this for ourselves. We can all live this dream, but only if we're brave enough to step up and accept it. Only if we're brave enough to accept the mission that is calling inside of us to build the world that we know is possible in our hearts. And I know you feel it. And so the results are simple. Results are financial freedom, right? Being able to craft an offer and offer it out. You can now pay your bills and work from home. For all you know, I'm standing in my pajamas right now. And for the most part, I am. For the most part, I tend to be at home working and tinkering in my office, making so many of these amazing things happen. But not only that, I also am traveling the world and living an adventure. I'm also out there exploring places like Austin, Texas, and Australia, being called to speak in Spain or Italy, being able to see this movement take shape and form and continuously raise my hopes while living this adventure and absorbing this wisdom. The results are also the kick in the ass that you absolutely need. Not would be nice, need. If you're going to succeed, you need to bet on yourself. You need to be able and willing to invest in your accountability because it's going to get you there way faster. 2 people walk into the gym. Who are you? Which person would you bet on? And therefore, why wouldn't you bet on the same way for yourself? Now, beyond anything, I think the biggest result, the biggest value that you can get out of Superhero Academy is not just the information, but it's truly the community. It's truly the tribe of people who support you. Or when you're launching something or you have an idea or you're trying to pick between 2 logos or asking for feedback on this blog that you just wrote or the video that you're just going to create, or you need a videographer, a web developer, or somebody to step up and help you and join your team and your tribe, then there is no better place to look than the engaging conversations that are happening within our community. The different Q&As, the different setup, there's so much going on and we want you to be a part of it. So now, who is this for? Well, let me start by who this is not for. It's not for the half-ass committed people who are close-minded and not willing to invest in themselves, who are not willing to step up and be accountable to the mission or to this vision. If you're that person, if you think that, oh, well, my dreams can wait, or maybe I can do this tomorrow, or yeah, this is stupid, I don't need to know anything, I could just Google or YouTube this. Go right ahead. Be my guest. We don't want people like that in Superhero Academy because this is a highly curated tribe. You can't just join because you have money. You have to earn being a part of this community. And if somebody comes in and is that person, we would rather invite them to leave and give them their money back. But who this is for is the person who is seeking freedom, who is seeking empowerment and looking for tribe and accountability, who is dedicated, not just kind of wants to, dedicated to a life of impact, and who is seeking mentorship and who wants to just live their mission and earn money while doing it too. Well, then this is the mountain for you to climb. And I want to tell you a little bit of the stories of some people who have gone through the academy that have radically changed their life. So this person here is somebody who I did not know. His name is Ryan Schwartz. We met online in one of the cheesiest Facebook groups that I've ever seen. Somehow I posted something when I first started Superhero Academy. I was looking for feedback in a community and tribe, actually. I was looking for somebody to tell me a little bit of something. And I posted in this copywriters group. And this guy, Ryan, I guess saw it. And he ended up reaching out to me and when we decided we were going to chat. But when I got back from this trip in LA, I was on a 3-week trip, business kind of tour going around. And he was looking for support. He was looking to kind of stop trading time for money. He was earning $15 to $20 an hour, depending on which job he was working at, working part-time as a copywriter for other people. And right before we were about to meet, right as I was getting back from LA, he had a stroke in his early 30s. Ryan met me in a coffee shop, and I will never forget the day that I met Ryan, because I told him a story. I saw in his eyes that he had been scared shitless, not only from the stroke that he had just had in his early 30s, but he'd been scared shitless because he recognized that he was not on the path that he wanted to be. That he wanted to be on a path of earning great money, that he wanted to be location independent, that he wanted to be his own boss, and that he wanted to build a community around him. And well, through Superhero Academy, he did just that. He went from earning $15 an hour part-time to 5 months in this 5th month, he earned $30,000 in a single month, doing the exact same thing that he was doing before, but asking for more, knowing his worth, giving it out to initiatives and people who needed it and who were willing to pay for it. And he has never turned back since. He has literally been an ethospreneur, as is the word he likes to use, ever since. And through Superhero Academy, through the stuff that I was able to do for him, through the accountability and the questions that I was able to answer for him on a week-to-week basis, he stepped up and he turned into that entrepreneur that he wanted to be. But not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Some of us want to be supporters. We want to be powerful followers and dedicated movement makers within a tribe or organization, within something that already exists. We want to amplify the messages and the effectiveness of those people. And so Jared Decker, who ended up coming to our mentorship program in Costa Rica, we host every year now, it's becoming tradition, was in Amsterdam, working for a bank, unclear with her wants. She was looking for a tribe, and she wasn't really finding it. And she was seeking adventure. She was looking for something new, for something fresh. And she was working as a freelancer and a project manager within organizations that she didn't necessarily align with. But now she's supporting amazing game changers. She's location independent, literally moved back to Canada and has, visited me in Montreal the other day and is hopping around at all times. But she's also building a portfolio and smiles about her job now. She's now engaged in one of the best online marketing agencies on the planet that do this from the perspective of only helping real game changers, real spirit-based businesses, real philanthropreneurs amplify their message. And in fact, they're working with Superhero Academy starting tomorrow, and Jara's leading the cause, which is amazing. So now here's the thing. Normally, Superhero Academy is a $2,000 investment to enroll. But today, and today only, I want to give you a gift. I want you to be on this path. I want you to step up and play a role within your community and to adopt this mission right here and right now. So for a limited time, we are going to make it $997. We're going to save you 50% on your investment in yourself by allowing you the absolute cheapest deal that we've had. Everyone who's joined the Academy before you has paid the full tuition to be a part of it, has invested in themselves, has seen an enormous amount of results. And not only do we want this for you, not only do we want you to be a part of the tribe, but we are so confident in it that we guarantee your results. We will give you your money back with 60 days for you to try it. No hassle, as long as you're willing to join and step up right now. As long as you're willing to really, truly step into this mission today. Now, this guarantee comes with something that you need to understand. You see, a lot of you might be feeling a resistance. You're feeling like, oh man, I don't even know if this is possible for me. My mom told me I should go get a real job. Maybe that's what I should do, right? The people before me think that I should just go and work in accounting or be a doctor, but that's not what I really want to do. And if there's ever been proof that philanthropreneurs actually can change the world, then Elon Musk, one of my personal heroes, is definitely that proof. I don't want to point to me as being that one person, but there are people out there making a killing doing what they love and truly shifting the planet. And I wanted to tell you, it's also not too late to spit out the blue pill, just like I did. I was in university too. I had a regular job too. I was going down the path that I didn't want to. I also knew nothing. I also had no vision or clarity. I also knew nothing about storytelling and marketing and creating movements online. I also had never reached anybody. I had never run a crowdfunding campaign. I had never done all the things that I now teach in Superhero Academy as classes. But I spit the hell out of that blue pill. I spit it so far, and I took the red pill, and I've never turned back since. I've been paying my bills for a decade now, doing exactly what I love, and you can spit that blue pill out too. You don't have to accept a life of mediocrity. You don't have to accept that you're only going to have 2 weeks vacation for the next 4 years before one day you might get a 2.5 week raise. You can't accept that your mission can come secondary to what your wallet needs. Because I truly believe that if you live a life of passion, you're going to see your mission be amplified, and you are going to make way more riches, not only measured in dollars and cents, but also in ripple of impact, the other ROI that I was talking about earlier, in ways that you could not imagine. Now, here's the thing. Philanthropreneurs seize opportunities. And I know that there's this feeling inside of you might say, I'm not sure, or maybe I'm not the right moment, or how do I make this work for me right now? Well, we have a link for you that answers every single one of your questions. And like I said, I want to remind you, the 60-day guarantee will give you your money back if this doesn't work for you. If you watch all the classes, you join right now, you watch all the classes, and you don't find any information, we will give you your money back. So there is absolutely no risk to you. But this deal is not going to last forever. We're only allowing it for 5 days because we want to reward people who make decisions. One of the number one skill sets you need to change the world. You see, MLK, when he went up and he told the speech of, I have a dream, he made a decision that day to give a speech that would echo into eternity, that would change the lives of millions of people. And he did it knowing full well that he could be beaten, murdered, and have so many problems. And it's exactly what ended up happening. And yet he seized the opportunity. So I'm asking you, will you accept our gift? Will you enroll today? Will you join our tribe? Will you recognize that the time is right now? Would you recognize that right here and right now is the moment that you've been waiting for? The accountability, the tribe, the knowledge, the riskless scenario that you can use to step up into this life. You can rise as a philanthropreneur. You can follow this 4-part journey. You can watch these classes each and every day, like you could watch it each and every week. And you can get on this path right now if you decide to join us. And my hope, not only inside of me, but for the world, for your mission, for your community, for the things that this planet needs, for the causes that are calling your name. I hope that you have the courage to step up with us. And I promise you that I will be there to support you every single step of the way. I'm going to jump on and I'm going to invite Garrett, who is watching some of your questions and some of the different components of what you guys are doing. I'm going to invite him to kind of send some of the questions you guys might have my way. If you guys want, chat them or type them out. And you guys can use the question button as well to answer and ask questions that might have come. And I will take the time to answer each and every single one of them as we go. So Garrett, what questions did we have as I was telling that story?
Not too many off the top of my head. I'm reading some on the side right now. I have somebody interested in Valhalla, Vermont. What's some kind of best practices for accountability?
Best practices for accountability is join a community, be part of something where, the people who have walked a path before you, the people who have done this kind of stuff before you need to surround yourself with them. You're going to learn through osmosis. You're going to learn through the classes that they're able to teach. And, there's so much going on from the perspective of recognizing that you can do this alone, quote unquote, but you're going to accelerate so much faster if you're doing it with somebody else. So, that's what Superhero Academy provides. We're really a tribe of people who communicate, who step up and take on the world's biggest challenges. And we don't do it alone. We do it together. There's many questions that I ask and feedback for what we're doing with the Academy. There's so many things that we're doing all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's just, a huge component.
So we have somebody who's kind of struggling with time management between a full-time job and then following her bliss. What recommendations do you have, or maybe you can tell them a little bit about the time management class within Super Academy?
Yeah, so one of the first classes in Superhero Academy, after asking you a little bit more about some of your visions and ideas, is actually about scheduling and planning, about time management, right? Like, so many of us, just like me, when I was starting, even though I was an entrepreneur, I was doing work for other people. I was learning videography. I was learning webinars. I was learning Facebook. I was learning all these things. And I didn't have the time to build Superhero Academy and all these things either. But I was able, through really great planning and scheduling, and it's a course that's available, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in Superhero Academy, I was able to build and find the time. Every day, if you're up for 16 hours a day, you're only working for 9. Yeah, you might have to pick up your kids. You might have to drive, spend 2 hours in traffic. You still have time. You have energy. If this means something for real to you, then you can make this happen. You can truly make this stand up. You could really make this come to life. And so even people with full-time jobs, and I would say most people who have joined have full-time jobs. Even people with full-time jobs have stepped into the Academy and found the time and get you committed. And that's what the accountability is there for. That's why we can poke you when we haven't seen you in the classroom for a little while. So, being able to do something like this, I think it was Charlotte's question, is a key component. And we teach you that step one, literally in the apprentice level. It's like the first thing that we get you to recognize, because we understand that if you're not watching it, then you're not applying it, right? It's not enough to have the information. You need to really put it into action. So I see Alex here asked, how do you start your day? And do you recommend one book or 5? Okay, I'm going to start with one book. I'm not going to recommend 5. I'm going to recommend the book. I actually mentioned it in the podcast, or in the class, sorry. That's because I did a podcast with this person on his book, is Bold by Peter Diamandis. I think it's a great book. So much powerful information, so many amazing things there. Really worth your time to kind of read. It really makes you start thinking about problems on a bigger scale. I think it's super important. And then to answer the question of how do I start my day? That's a great question. I mean, daily it's slightly different, but I do have a routine. I'd like to think that I don't wake up and check my emails and Facebook sometimes, because sometimes it's just what comes to me. But for the most part, I try and wake up early, give myself the time to breathe, to stretch, to sometimes meditate, sometimes go for a walk, start pacing, thinking, even sometimes just watch YouTube, just kind of focus on something else. And then I get into what I call power hours, which is one of the things I teach in Superhero Academy as well. It's an hour-long dedicated moment where I focus on the one thing that I need to do to make sure that I move my dreams forward each and every single day. One small step each and every single day. So yeah, those are some of the things that I do in the morning. Eugene, I want to join. I can't pay right now. Can arrange payment tomorrow. Okay, great. No problem. Look, you have 5 days. We sent you guys the link. Garrett posted it earlier. If you visit the link that you saw in this webinar, or you guys are going to get emails with the replay to this webinar, as well as all kinds of stuff that you need to be able to sign up today or in the next 5 days. This is really an offer that ends real soon, and it's not going to come around very often. So I do suggest you take it. We relaunched the Academy. We really want to make it as accessible as possible to people. And, you know, for those of you who end up saying, you know what, I just can't make it in the 5 days or whatever, there are other options. We do have other opportunities that will come up in terms of, you know, being able to subscribe on a month-to-month basis, but you're losing out. You're not going to have direct access to asking me questions or Garrett questions. You're not going to gain the same level of accountability, the same level of service that we're providing to you today if you sign up in full. So really, this is an exclusive offer. This is the best it's ever going to get. And we have so many teachers, so many classes are going to be filmed in the next little bit. It's insane. Like Garrett's going to be doing a whole class on social media management, how you can make money being a social media manager and build movements that way. So there's so much stuff. And I said class, but I mean course. So yeah, there's so much you're going to gain access to, and there's so much there. Joey, I found energy management to be the more efficient in conjunction with time management. Yeah, energy management and time management go hand in hand. If you can find ways to manage your time, then you're going to be able to find ways to manage your energy. So guys, let me know what questions you might have in the chat. I'd love to hear and answer some of your questions. I know you guys have some if you're still around. Scott said, if you pay $9.97, and then ended his question there. So yeah, I guess so. Let's see. Are there any other questions that are coming in? Garrett, do you have any questions or any things that people...
Maybe you could jam on like comfort zone a little bit. I know that was like the biggest challenge that I had whenever I left the ski resort and decided to come up to Montreal and to like start taking Super Academy, and like how that was a big influence and how it was more of a comfort zone challenge than I thought it would be, but it had the greatest reward.
Yeah, okay. Well, so how did you feel about comfort zone? How did you feel when you were kind of doing that? I mean, you're asking me the question, but I'd love to put it right back on you. I mean, you're the person who went through it, you know, directly in this academy. What does that look like for you?
I mean, I think with that, and then there was a time where I dropped everything, went to Costa Rica for 2 months, and it seems like that's where I've had the greatest reward whenever I jump out of my comfort zone, in a sense. So yeah, I mean, if you're kind of like curious about it, then definitely shoot us more questions and stuff like that. I'm happy to clear them up. But I think that if you kind of have that feeling in your stomach that you want to kind of jump into it, then it's definitely something to look into it, because that's where I've had the greatest success in my own personal life. And I know that Mark can say the same when it comes to him getting out of his comfort zone.
Absolutely. I'm out of my comfort zone at all times. I mean, you know, doing webinars or stepping onto stages with thousands of people paying attention. You know, I was at an event recently called Paleo FX. There was 6,000 people at the event, and I was on stage 4 times. So, you know, you got to get uncomfortable. You know, here's the thing. Change isn't going to be comfortable. Like just like doing and getting a 6-pack. It's going to take work. It's going to take you being uncomfortable for a minute or two. You know what I mean? It's going to take time for you to get through it. And that's really, really, really important. So you got to recognize that getting uncomfortable is part of the process, but we're there to support you through it. And that's what the kind of community is there for. That's what these classes are there for. That's why you can watch them over and over and over again. You can watch the same class 4 times just so that you start gaining that confidence and getting comfortable doing what you need to do. So, okay. So some questions are rolling in here now. Have you read Kotler's books? I have. Yes, I have, Alex. How can I work at one of your domes? One of my domes? You mean Eco Village or at one of our spaces? Well, honestly, we only hire through the academy, so that's the only way. Unless you go through the academy and you've learned some of our systems, unfortunately, we are not going to work with you. It's not because I don't want to partner with you. It's just that we're not going to directly hire you. There's so many students who want to work with us and come and spend time with us here at Valhalla or at Superhero Academy. We cannot afford to not work with you, with these people. Like these people have gone through the ultimate training. They know exactly the kind of stuff and the community and the mission, purpose-driven kind of mentality that we have. So it's the only way. I mean, winning the academy is definitely the fastest way to do it. It's also the fastest way for you to make that happen in your own community. You don't have to come work at ours necessarily. You can do it too. So what sort of environmentors do you have? More about the community of what's connected. Environmentors. Well, I have a bunch of different mentors. I've learned from people like Stephen Brooks, who's an amazing mentor when it comes to permaculture. I've learned from local permaculturalists here in Montreal that have come and give us workshops and have taught us things like beekeeping. There's an endless list of people that I've learned from. We learned from Michael Reynolds when we were building Earthships. I know, Garrett went to Taos, New Mexico and learned how to do that too. And, we had locals like Francis Gendron who helped us pound the tires because he had gone and graduated the academy and spoke French and could communicate to the people around us. I've met people like Sylvia Earle at COP21, who was, the star of Mission Blue on Netflix and a massive ocean conservationist that I've spoken to and interviewed even before. So, I've had a bunch of different mentors. I've worked with also a bunch of business coaches. I've worked with nutritionists. I've worked with health specialists. I'm working with them now. And, I've also had mentors in videography. I've had mentors in web design and web development. Literally everyone who I hire in some way, shape, or form is a mentor to me. That's a lot of people. We have a pretty big payroll, if I say so myself. I'm going to take a look at energy management. Okay, great. Any advice for starting a project in another country? Carla. Well, it depends what country you want to start in, but I'm starting a project in another country, Valhalla, Vermont being the case, but also in Costa Rica. And the first thing I think you need to do is you have to know that country. You have to have visited and you have to start getting to know locals. You can't just go, like I said, guys, when I tell you mentorship is the thing, it's because I do it. Before I ever committed to starting a project in Costa Rica, I've visited there twice now for over 2 months, both times. I spent an enormous amount of time really diving deep, getting to know the country, getting to know locals, getting to know people who are working there already and teaming up with those people. So I think that's super key. The other thing is, what works in America works in China too. You need to tell stories. You need to learn what it takes to make this mission exist in something beyond you, and then something you could communicate, not only verbally, not only on a mic, right? Not only in front of an audience, but also written, also with colors and shapes and pictures and imagery and video. These are so many things that are super important to learn. Well done. Great clips came out of it. Thanks, Joey. Mark, you look so animated and comfortable in front of the camera. Did you have discomfort when first talking to the camera? What tips can you offer for getting comfortable when speaking to a camera? That's a great question, Cody. First things first, just like, getting a six-pack abs, reps is everything. In fact, as I'm speaking to this camera right now, the entire time I was actually looking at two different cameras because we were recording this for myself to gain better practice and also to be able to put online and kind of take clips out of as well. So I wasn't always this animated. I wasn't always this comfortable. When I made Valhalla's first mission video, I actually spent, I think it was like an hour and a half doing this one take segment that was about like a minute long of something I had to memorize. I spent an hour and a half fucking it up every time. We had to record it a million times over. And it was a scene. And if you go look at the video, it's me taking off a bunch of layers of clothing because we were trying to make it funny and engaging. I think we did a good job because it worked. We reached millions of people with it. But point being, I was opening up this video and every time I had to redo the take, I had to put back on every single layer of sweaters and clothing that I was wearing. So I wasn't always this good. I think I put in the reps. And I threw myself to the wolves. I get uncomfortable. When we first launched Superhero Academy in beta, I ended up doing a webinar and 100 people showed up, 600 people signed up and watched it over time. And I wasn't necessarily comfortable. I had never done this in my life at that time. Now, a few years later, I'm really totally comfortable being able to communicate this story. And this is something that I teach, right? If you have a storyline and you have the threads of that storyline and you know how that storyline gets carried out, your ability to be able to express it without being like a bunch is kind of disappearing. So the reason I was able to kind of like generally speak all the way through this class is because I know this storyline. I spent hours making those slides that you guys got to enjoy and take a look at. I spent a lot of time making that possible. So it's very, important. I want to start a project in Argentina, possibly. I would too. I would love to learn more about that project. Tell us more, Charlotte. I'm very impressed by this webinar. Eugene, man, if you're impressed by this webinar, by all means, trust me, you're going to be impressed by these classes online too. So yeah, it's going to be huge. Yes, Eco Village, thanks for answering. No problem. What is it? Akshay. Cool. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I hope I got it right. Village sounds as if they were pulled from my dreams. Well, they were pulled from my dreams, and that's how we made it happen. Okay, Diana, got to go. Wonderful webinar, guys. I'm a current student, and I highly recommend this. Changed my life, my way to freedom. Don't sleep on this opportunity. We'll finish the recording later, everyone. Diana is a all-star student. She recently joined and has just been completely changing her life. So yeah, super awesome to see her join. And thank you so much for showing up, Diana. She's another prime example of people who are succeeding with Superhero Academy. Are we talking Valhalla CBD gummies? There is somebody in Valhalla who has a legal growing license and who makes gummies. We do not sell them though. It's for his personal use, and he has medical, a medical license for himself. So, but no, we are not running Valhalla CBD gummies if that's a company or idea. Although I'm not against gummies or CBD oils or anything like that. Other questions, guys? Come on, keep them rolling. What other questions might you have? Garrett, do you have any other questions?
I like the, if you can kind of talk about the 8 steps to telling an engaging story. That's probably one of my favorite classes they have.
Yeah, so that's the first class in the hero level. 8 steps to telling an engaging story, which is super, super, super powerful. It really was a realization that I recognized that some of the most engaging stories are often some of the most predictable ones, right? Like we've all heard of things like the hero's journey. We've all watched superhero movies or Disney movies, and they tend to have this very similar story arc. But it doesn't make it less engaging. It doesn't make it less empowering. It doesn't make it less impactful to us when we watch it. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that, we really need to find a way to continuously tell this story and recreate the story and find this storyline within it. And so I teach an 8-step storyline, step by step by step. I used it directly in this webinar. So if you made it to the end, it's because it works in some way, shape, or form. And it's worked to reach millions of people before you guys who are here. So yeah, I mean, it's just super empowering. It was definitely a life changer. It's the first class I ever recorded for the Academy. And I personally still think it's one of the best classes. I tell the 8 steps on stages regularly. I mean, I've been, paid to speak all around the world to express this. And this is something you can have access to for what I think is a super reasonable investment in yourself. So that's strangely mysterious because I bought a couple last night for the first time. Amazing, Scott. Well, I hope you enjoy those CBD gummies. That's awesome. Okay, other questions, or are we going to slowly but surely start wrapping up?
That's all that I've got down. And then if you join the Academy and you're in the private Facebook group, we'll be doing weekly Q&As. We do these things called free says. It's one of our students put together and kind of gives people the time to shine. They kind of message them and say what topic they want to speak about that week. And then it's a great kind of meetup for people to talk about everything from storytelling to wellness, meditation, yoga to permaculture. It's just a great place. And a lot of different minds are like kind of passions in one place, but they all feed off of one another to kind of help people follow their bliss and things that we are truly passionate about, the word, from sustainability to wellness, and just all over the place. It's really a truly great place, in my opinion.
Awesome. So Charlotte asked, is this all online where we learn? How is the learning method? So all the courses and the classes are online, Charlotte. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like I said, there's a riskless scenario for you to test them and learn. How it's taught is right here behind me is a blackboard. I basically have 2 camera angles for all the classes, and then it switches between the 2 camera angles. And for, pretty much every class is give or take about 60 minutes. And we talk about one particular topic, and I dive deep into the how-tos of that topic. So this is not just like stories and anecdotal stuff about other people and other things. Like this is like, no, this is what I used with this client in this way, and this is how it worked, and these are the results, and these are the things you need to avoid. It's super, super, super important that you recognize that this really is the how-to for making something like this come to life. And so, yeah, I mean, I really think that that's important for everyone to recognize. So how long do you get the courses for again? You literally get them for life. That's a great question, Worm. You get them for life. So it's lifetime access. So literally, as long as the internet exists, I'm going to continue to invest in this academy. So are those like Garrett and other people around us. We're going to really continue putting time and effort. We actually have 2 new classes that are coming up this week. One on sales, one on community building, and literally like decision-making models, like nonviolent communication and consensus models and end street models and all these things that we learned through Valhalla and stuff. So there's a lot of information there. But yeah, that's important. Scott, in short, could you explain what Valhalla is? Valhalla is the mythical version of Valhalla is the kind of land where the Vikings believed they would go to, this land called Asgard when they died an honorable death. And they went to this great hall called Valhalla to train for the Battle of Armageddon. They went to this amazing space to kind of be able to prepare themselves for the battle of good versus evil, the battle of the gods in a sense. And so we kind of feel like that's what we're doing on land. We're transforming the 66-acre GMO corn and soya field that I went out into the middle of a cornfield and planted a tree on. And you actually saw a picture of me right before I planted that tree in this class. I planted that tree because that was the way that I was kind of declaring that I wasn't going to point the finger at the government or the rest of the world for the problems that I was having unless I was willing to step up and actually be a part of the solution. And so Valhalla is that solution. It's like a sandbox. It's a place where we get to play and experiment. It's where we've tried and literally built earthships. We've installed solar panels. We've built off-grid buildings out of recycled materials. We've installed well water. We're literally building an off-grid community where a bunch of us can live. And my goal is to eventually have, and not just my goal, but our community's goal is to eventually have 150 people living in this community being fed 100%, or at least 100% of the calories could be fed to our community, providing education both for adults and children, providing physical spaces where people can learn and experiment. And we also host in-person mentorships, which we're hosting one this September in Montreal. We have 7 people signed up out of 8. So yeah, I mean, that's, an amazing experience. That's a 30-day thing. And Garrett ended up coming out to one of our mentorships last May in Montreal. And I mean, he has not turned back since. If you heard his story at the beginning of this class, he was, working as a busboy and a ski instructor, and basically his whole life has shifted and has been able to kind of earn a living ever since that day, ever since that mentorship, and ever since taking these online classes. So, hopefully that answers some of your questions, Charlotte, Scott, Worm, and Eugene and stuff. Eugene, I want to write a book of my life. Okay, great. We'll start. Make it happen. And use the academy to help you pick the cover and pick the title and use the feedback that you can get out of the group to do it. Gloria Moss, great webinar, super encouraging. I'm a student too, and it's definitely worth joining the academy. Garrett, with recently starting an Eco Village Vermont, how are you going to manage it with travel? Ooh, that's a good question.
So the thing is, it's not just me here. We have a whole community. We've just gotten started, so it'll be kind of slow during the winter, and Vermont gets really cold, so there's not too much farming going on the land. So we have a small greenhouse right now. But the goal is there's 4 people living here right now, and there's a 5th room, or like an extra room for mentorships throughout the season. But as I leave,
people coming like next week to start mentorships with you guys in Vermont too.
Yep, somebody's coming up next week. 2 people are actually coming up next week. But while we're gone throughout the winter, there's going to be people still living here, keeping an eye on things. So it's not fully on my shoulders. I'm just a part of something that's huge and awesome. So it's not just me at all. It's a tribe of us.
And when it's snowy out on the ground in Vermont or in Canada, it's obviously also very different because there's less to do, right? Running the lavender field or the vineyard that is Valhalla, Vermont, requires less work. So I tend to travel from let's say November 1st till March 31st, pretty much every year. I come back for Christmas often to see my family and my community. But, you know, I tend to travel full time for like a third of the year every year. And I think Garrett is lining up to come with us this year as well. And he was there in Costa Rica with us earlier this year. So, I mean, you know, you find ways. We become digital nomads, and this is what Superhero Academy can teach you. Are you looking to expand your community to other countries as well, Charlotte? Yes, we are. We're looking at Costa Rica. I already have a project going there, and I'm in discussions there. And we're talking about an event in Australia that Garrett and I are going to go and kind of start getting off the ground. And we have a lot of Australians who are excited about what we're doing and who are part of the academy as well. So yeah, we are slowly but surely, and we're doing it through our mentorship programs. We believe that the number one way to start the next community is to actually seed people with every single tool that they need, both with the online classes so that they can kind of find that support on a regular basis in the Facebook group, but also kind of, you know, doing the in-person mentorship programs, whether we go to them or they come to us, you know, is left to be seen. And we're still expanding this. This is still something we're figuring out over time, but so far, so great. Okay, guys, so I don't see any more questions rolling in. If you guys have more questions, you guys can always email us at explore at superheroacademy.net. Explore at superheroacademy.net. And if you want to learn more, there's also on our website, you can always ask us more questions. Garrett, can you share that link one more time for those good people out there who are still paying attention, who still want to learn this? And if you're watching this later, just recognize that the link has been sent to you via email. You can see, learn more about the gifts, so you can have all your questions answered. All right. Like I said, I really want to remind you, this is a 5-day offer. Offer is only good for 5 days. Okay. And the price is going to go right back up to the regular investment of $2,000. And if not further in the future. So if you guys join in now, you guys are going to get access to a bunch of courses that are being filmed right now in our studio. And so you're going to have way more opportunity, and you're going to be kicking yourself if you don't jump in. So I thank you so much for your attention. I thank you so much for showing up. I thank you so much for being this philanthropreneur, for kind of stepping up and just seeing this for yourself and kind of even considering this. But I thank you even more for your attention, not to me, but to the mission that you know is living inside of you, that is brewing inside of you. So we really want to see you step into this. We really want to support you doing it. We really want to kind of give you a fist bump and have you join the academy. We really want to be typing your name in tomorrow morning or the next day or whatever it is into the Facebook group, introducing you to the rest of the tribe. And we are so excited to support you along this path. So much love to all of you. Thank you so much, Garrett, for showing up, taking the time to be a part of this webinar as well. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon. I really love you all, and I really appreciate the time you guys spent learning from us today, and hope it was valuable.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.